Hi, I'm Celia Schilling from Yacht Club Games.
Hey, this is James from Megacat Studios.
Hey, this is Matt, aka Stormageddon, from Reignite, Screen Snark, and the Fun and Games podcast.
This is Stephanie from the Boss Rush podcast and the Boss Rush Network.
Hey, this is Mark and Keon from Bonte Avond.
Hey, this is Sebastian with the ProNerdReport.com and the Single Player Experience podcast.
Hi, this is Chris.
Mike.
And Garrett from Daylight Basement Studio.
Hey, this is Baron J67 from Level 1 Gaming.
Hey, this is Todd Mitchell from Code Right Play.
Salutations, this is Mike Carroll from Stroll Art.
Hey, this is Jeff Moonen from Fun and Games Podcast.
Hey, this is Patrick from the Backlog Odyssey.
Hey, this is Rune from Runic Codes.
Hi, this is Andrew from Spalato Bros.
Hi everyone, Jill Grote here from the Indie Informer.
Hey, this is Brimstone, and you're listening to Roger Reichart on the Gamerheads Podcast.
And welcome to another episode of the Gamerheads Podcast. My name is Roger. Along with me this week, I have a very special guest. I have Eddie Cai. He is the lead designer. Would you say, is that your title of
yes.
StarVaders? Lead designer of the game StarVaders. I got to try out this game at PAX West, and I loved it. I loved playing the game. I played it since got home, and I saw that you updated the demo, so I'm like, of course I got to play more of this game. So yeah, welcome to the show, Eddie. Thank you so much for taking time out of your schedule and meeting with me today.
Oh no, of course. Thank you so much for hosting me.
Yeah. So tell us about yourself before we get into the game. Tell us about yourself. What was your induction to games itself, into gaming, and the wild ride of like creating a game yourself?
Yeah, sure. So, my name's Eddie. I was born in Canada, in Montreal, Canada. So we had French high school and all that. And yeah, I guess a typical upbringing, nothing super special. Some of the first games I've ever played was, I'm rather young actually, so Portal was one of the earlier games I played.
Okay.
Things like Roller Coaster Tycoon.
Oh, love Roller Coaster Tycoon.
Civilization.
Yeah.
So there's always a bit of those puzzle or tactics type strategy games that I've played. But Portal was like my childhood favorite game ever, right?
Yeah.
So that's actually kind of how I got into game design a bit as well, because Portal is such a well-designed game. I tried to get into the modding scene a bit. Make a few of my own maps for Portal.
Yeah.
Don't think that ever went anywhere, but that did induct me into like the game development world and the idea of thinking about games from the other side. Fast forward a few dozen years, and I fell in love with board games.
Yeah.
I'm much more of a bigger board game person than a video game person, I would say.
Okay.
And yeah, so I played a lot of board games. One of my most favorite games is called Arkham Horror, the card game.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like deck building type game.
Yeah.
You build out characters, go through missions, prevent the world from getting destroyed by Doom. Yeah, and I did make a fan-made campaign of that game.
Oh, fun! Yeah,
that was very well received, and that was my first major game design project. After that, me and a few of my friends from before university, we got together, did a few game jams together.
Fun.
For test out our creative skills and our programming skills and all that. And eventually, while playing a few board games, I came up with the idea of StarVaders, and we started working on that part-time and eventually full-time now as the potential grew more and more.
Yeah, that's awesome. You can see a lot of influence of board games in StarVaders, so I can definitely see that, and I love it. So, tell us about StarVaders then. What's this game about?
Yeah, so StarVaders is, I think the easiest way to explain it would be saying it's a turn-based tactical version of Space Invaders.
Yeah.
So you control this little mech at the bottom of this grid, and there are aliens that are coming down, alien ships that are coming down slowly every turn, and you just kind of like shoot at the aliens before they get to the bottom. But it's turn-based tactics, right? So each turn you have a certain amount of actions you can do, and you have to strategize. Where do you place your bombs? Which ones do you shoot first? Try to have a bit of tactics to figure out what's the best way to deal with this menace that's coming down. And we've incorporated a deck building element as well, which is to say that the actions you use to move your mech and fire bullets and all that, they're all written on cards that you play.
Yeah.
It adds this kind of variability to the gameplay where each turn you get a new hand of cards. Each turn you have to figure out a new puzzle to solve, a new strategy. Yeah.
Yeah. I love that. I mean, so I play a lot of deck builder games, and I also play a lot of deck builders, like board games too. I have a whole stack of games that I play board games wise, and deck builders are like my favorite games. And for me, when I played StarVaders, what impressed me the most about this game was the fact that you took something that is like an established genre of deck builders, right? And I've played a lot, and a lot of them are the same, right? Like they have the same premise, and it's like, okay, I've seen that. But you took it and like added such a cool element with the strategy of like a board game, right? Because you have the grids and they have the enemies coming down. That it was something so different and so unique. Even with the overburn or the overheating mechanic, right? Where like typically a lot of games, like you can play like you have 3 action points in three cards, but like your overheating element is so unique and so cool. I love this game so much. It's and besides all like the cool mechanics, it's super polished. It is such a beautiful, beautiful game. So yeah, I love this game a lot.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Means a lot to us.
Yeah, I'm absolutely. It's such a fun. I mean, when I played it, I thought I was really quite proud of myself that I beat that first boss. I was
yeah. It's quite a hard game.
It is a hard game. It is, but it's so fun, and it's like once you pick up on it, it's like it's such an amazing game. So, what inspired StarVaders? I mean, besides the board game, obviously, and obviously Space Invaders. Like, what were some of the other inspiration you had with the game?
I did. There are actually 2 very, very specific catalysts to me creating StarVaders or coming up with the idea, and it's 2 specific board games, unfortunately. Coming back to the board games.
Yeah.
There's one board game called Bullet.
Okay.
And it's kind of this. So the idea of Bullet is, what if Bullet Hell game was a board game?
Oh, interesting.
So Bullet is kind of this real-time game where you have a bunch of bullets coming at you, and you have to match patterns to defeat the bullets before they get too low on the grid.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh,
And,
there is similarities there with the Doom area, right? So
yeah, exactly. And so my first thought there was, I really like this game, but what if it was a deck builder? Because there were cards in the game Bullet. They did have cards. They had different characters, and each characters had their set of cards.
Okay.
But I was kind of thinking it'd be cool if you could upgrade those cards or improve your deck over time to have like a longer form campaign than just these small matches against other people.
Yeah.
So it kind of started there. There was another game called Under Falling Skies, a solo board game, which is the premise is, what if Space Invaders was a tactical board game, right? So in that one, it's more of a tower defense style game where you place down kind of towers and you solve some puzzles with dice rolling to try to line up shots against aliens. I kind of merged all of these ideas together. Obviously, there's inspiration from big deck building games like Slay the Spire.
Yeah.
There's also inspirations from tactical games like Into the Breach.
Yeah.
A lot of the design philosophies are very similar to those type of games. So yeah, it's kind of like a big mix together of all of these ideas, and I just put them on a prototype on Tabletop Simulator.
Okay. Interesting.
And it kind of worked, and then we went along with it. Yeah.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I think the impressive part for me is the fact that, you know, you took these concepts from board games and then you brought it to the virtual tabletop, right, and tried it out there. But I mean, and now you're building it in Unity, right? So like, what was that like, that learning curve, and like thinking through, like, it sounds like you had a great idea for like a game design and you thought through the design first, but then the whole learning curve with Unity, what was that like in building out the game?
It was pretty complex, I would say. Yeah. It was pretty complex. We're lucky that our team is made up of 3 people, and 2 of us have computer science degrees in university, so we are pretty solid software people already. But there are a lot of unforeseen things in video games that you don't really think about when designing, say, a board game. For example, one of the most complex things that we had to implement for the current game, the video game, was what I called a preview system. When you hover over a card, or when you're about to play an action, it shows you exactly what's going to happen once you play it. That's a very useful quality of life feature, so that people don't have to like try to do the math to figure out the chain reactions, how it works. We just kind of show them so that most of the decision making is what card to play instead of what happens when I play this card.
Yeah.
These type of calculations are just intrinsic in board games, but in video games, we're allowed to ease the learning curve for players by helping out with that. And it's very difficult to implement.
Yeah. And that you're right. That's something like in a board game, you get an instruction booklet, right? And it just kind of like walks you through, like, this is the step of play. This is how you play that, right? But yeah, in video games, I mean, you, outside of having a physical booklet that you could ship with the game, right? Like, you do have to have the learning curve. And I would say, like, the game is challenging, but the learning curve is not difficult in StarVaders. But you do a really nice job of like easing people into the game and showing them how it works. And then also you don't throw the most difficult thing at them right away, right? Like, obviously the challenges ramp. The other thing I do love about StarVaders too is the fact that at the end of, and this is very typical with deck builders, but at the end of each level, you get to choose, like, do you want to go after like a new card, or do you want to go after like an upgrade, right? And it also shows you like the difficulty level of like each one. Like, this one looks more difficult than this one, right? So it's amazing because like all that goes into game development, but that's not typically how board games are laid out. So yeah, I thought you did a great job with that.
Thank you. Yeah. Thanks.
Yeah,
it was complicated. That's
so now you're going full time with this. What's that like?
It's pretty wild, honestly.
Yeah.
For me personally, at least, I never really imagined that I would be working in game development.
Yeah.
Because the field itself is very, very harsh, very difficult to make a living out of. So we were very, very grateful to have such wonderful publishers as partners that can help support us full time.
Yeah.
Since it's our own indie studio, we get to have flexible schedules, mostly work from home, remote. So I think it helps a lot that we get to be able to work in the best way our own human needs want to work.
Yeah.
It creates a like favorable environment for working, I guess.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So
and
I'm
was this your
enjoying it,
was it your first PAX? Was this your first PAX too?
Yes.
Or was this your first was it your first showing of the game too?
It was personally my first gaming event I've attended.
Okay.
A gaming showcase. So yes, but our game itself was also at a little Montreal Comic-Con event.
Oh yeah, that's awesome.
PAX. Yeah.
Oh, that's cool. That's cool. There was a lot of people at PAX that came over to the game and were playing it. Like, what was the reception like? What were you hearing from the fans? And how cool was it to see people playing your game?
No, it was awesome. I love seeing people play my game because then I'll go back home with a bunch of notes on how to fix the tutorial. But no, it was great. It was great. What I noticed is that anyone who's played a deck builder before loved the game instantly because they know what they're getting into already.
Yeah.
I had there were a few players that actually told their friends to come play it at PAX, and then
that's awesome.
On the third day of PAX, they invited me to dinner with their group of friends, and I went and just made a few new friends out of that.
Oh, that's awesome.
It's pretty fun.
Yeah, that's like something that you probably didn't expect, right? Like,
no. Yeah.
That's awesome. The other thing I noticed too was that you were asking people, like you asked me, like, what other games have you seen here that you thought were pretty awesome, right? And you were taking notes of other games. So I thought that was cool too. Like, not only were you interested in, getting feedback about your game, but you wanted to hear like what are other people saying about other games out there. So I thought that was really neat and fun to see as well, because I don't experience that real often where people are like, what other games have you played that you liked? I'm like, well,
yeah.
So that was cool. That was neat.
I mean, I think, I feel like being part of the gaming industry, you have to be excited about the future of the gaming industry in general.
Right.
So, I mean, I'm always interested in the other new indie games and all that because they're not competitors. They're just more fun for me, I guess.
Yeah. Especially recently, it seems like a lot of indies have banded together and been like, hey, these changes to Unity, this is not cool, right?
Oh, dear God. Yeah.
There is a narrative behind StarVaders. Can you talk about interweaving the story into StarVaders? We'll talk about the story a little bit, and then how did you interweave that into StarVaders? Because I can't imagine that being real easy when you're building a roguelike deck builder and trying to like weave a story into that as well.
Yeah. It's actually something we're still working on, so it's not completely fleshed out yet, but it is very difficult to interweave narrative in such a mechanics-heavy game. In these type of games, I think there's a lot of players that kind of just play and they might not even realize there is a story. There's click through the text or to click through the dialogue really fast. But I do think there are a lot of players that also enjoy the world that they live in and the characters. So our focus on StarVaders is making the characters shine through the game. So we're trying to put a lot of emphasis on having the characters have different personalities. We're going to try to make it so the characters have little text boxes when you ever do an action. We'll try to make them unique and reflect their personality, trying to get that vibe across. And hopefully, if we have the scope and the time to do it, we would like to have each of them have a little character arc throughout the game.
Cool.
Personal story, personal backstories that you uncover while you play. So I think that would be great. I guess the story for StarVaders is really there's an alien invasion happening, and you're one of the only hopes to defend the Earth from this alien invasion. But there are a few big questions remaining to be answered, which is, why are the aliens invading Earth? Why are you the one trying to save the Earth? And why is it that every time you die, you get to restart and try again? So
that is a good question.
We're trying to answer these through our narrative as well.
Nice.
There might be a bit of time travel. There might be a bit of cosmic mystery happening.
Wow.
But yeah.
Wow. I'm really intrigued now. That sounds amazing. Will each character, because I noticed that there's like obviously characters that are locked, like you have to like burn 5 cards before you unlock another like pilot, right, of the mechs.
Yeah.
Will each mech and each pilot have their own unique cards associated with them as well?
Yeah. So the
Nice.
idea for our different classes and different pilots is that each different class are made up of completely different card pools with new mechanics, new systems. As an example, our first mech, the gunner, it's kind of how I described the game. It's they shoot bullets and they throw bombs and they blow up bombs and they have an overheat mechanic. Our second class, actually, even though everyone loves the overheat mechanic, our second class doesn't have the overheat mechanic anymore.
Oh, interesting.
They have their own unique energy system.
Oh.
And they don't even fire bullets. They don't have any bombs. They don't burn any cards. They have completely different mechanics from.
Wow.
And each class, we're gonna have 3 classes in the game. Each class will have completely different ways of attacking, ways of using energy. So, very excited to show that off eventually. And within each mech class, we have different pilots, and the pilots are different. They have different starting decks, different starting cards. They also have different cards they can find in the card pool as well. But they still use the same core mechanics like burning or firing bullets and bombs.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's amazing. I mean, you're adding so much awesome. I mean, it's complex, right? It's complexity, but But what I love about that is it allows a player to decide how they want to approach the game and how they want to play the game as well, right? So that's amazing. The other thing that I will say too is the artwork in the game. Like, I love the artwork in this game. It has like this manga kind of style to it. But what's cool about it too, and I think this is part of the reason why it just feels so crisp and clean, is because the artwork is so fantastic as well. Can you talk about incorporating the art into the game design and like how that process went?
Yeah. So we have one artist on our team, Jin Fan, and he drew everything in the game, all the UI work, all the sprites, the animations. He's amazing. And basically, artwork is kind of, in such a design heavy game, it's a very iterative process as well. It goes through between us two a lot, where I'm kind of like, we need this enemy to feel like it's gonna shoot you. or something like that. And then he would come up with something, and we would discuss about it and think like, maybe this one looks too dangerous. It's not that dangerous of an enemy. Or maybe the shape of this enemy kind of seems too close to another enemy. So there's a lot of design work in trying to come up with the art, with the UI work as well, user experience. Where does the eye move to track the pieces and how to manage the flow better. It's very complex, but I think very satisfying when you see the final result and everything is very cohesive together.
Yeah.
But still very clear and easy to grasp at a glance what everything means.
Yeah. And the thing I like about the art too, it just pops, right? It just like, it's very vibrant colors, and it looks fantastic. Like it like everything just seems to flow really well with this game. That's what I like. That's what I love about StarVaders.
Thanks so much. Yeah, I mean, I feel like I'm glad. I didn't really say much about the color, but our artist just did bring all this color to this world, and I'm glad. I love color, right? I think games can't be too colorful. There should be more color in the world. So I'm very happy that our game is that colorful.
Yeah,
bright,
it's amazing.
popping.
Yeah,
it helps the player feel like they are in the vibrant world, so energetic, so active. When they make a huge combo, it feels like we're trying to keep the energy level high.
Yeah. It's well done. Love it. One of the other things that we talked about is the fact that there is a tactics element to this game, right? So it's not just deck builder, but it's also tactics.
Yeah.
Can you talk about incorporating those two mechanics? Because I don't think I've ever played deck builder where you had to focus on the tactics, and like the tactical, like almost like a board game, like you were saying, with deck building. What were some of the challenges with doing that?
Yeah. I'd say one of the bigger challenges is when you in a deck builder, sometimes you're not lucky. Right? Because the cards you draw are random. So
yes,
occasionally you might draw a really bad hand. And however, in a tactics games like ours, something like movement is so important to have every turn that if you don't draw any movement during a turn, you might just not be able to do anything during your turn. And that feels really, really bad.
Yeah.
So a lot of our design challenges are trying to figure out how to mitigate bad luck or how to make it so one unlucky moment doesn't end your run, but it should require multiple turns before you get to you should have a lot of leeway before you die, right? And that's kind of why there's a doom system, which is kind of like our health bar. But you only die after you repeatedly make a lot of mistakes rather than dying from one or two single mistakes. Or the entire Space Invaders design kind of helps alleviate the problem a bit too, because even if you don't get to kill the enemies on the first turn, they're still like 3 or 4 turns away from the bottom of the grid. So you still have a bit of leeway to kill, and you see them coming. You know that they're gonna get there in 4 turns. You have 4 turns to kill them. And one hidden thing we've added in our game is we've rigged the RNG of the card draw so that you always draw a movement card if possible.
Interesting. Yeah, but I think that's really important because you're right. Like movement in this game is important because there'll be enemy attacks where they'll do like an area attack, right? And if you're in that zone where the area attack is going to happen and you don't have any movement, like you're going to collect scrap, right? Isn't when you get attacked, right? That then it's filler cards, right? Like any other deck, right? They're filler cards that you can't really use. So it is important that you incorporate movement and that's just the one thing. Like it's a challenging game, but it's not like overly challenging that I'm like frustrated. And when I was playing the game, like unlike other deck builders where I do get frustrated when I don't get the cards and I'm like, I can't do anything. I'm going to have to trash this whole hand. In every hand that I've had in StarVaders, at least there was some things I could do and position myself that maybe I can't attack this round, but at least I can put myself into position where I can do something next round, right? So that's what I love about that game too. This is awesome.
Yeah. I think, one of the big challenges of creating these type of tactics games is to make sure that the player understands they lost because of skill. Not to say that our players are bad, but but it is a challenge for the players to understand why they lost, right?
Yeah.
Especially in a deck builder, when it's really hard to explain that they lost because of the choices they made 5 battles ago when they picked the wrong card.
Right.
So that's one of the big challenges, making sure the players understand that they could have done something different in order to win. They made a mistake at some point, and how to show the player where they made the mistake. That's why we have something called the reroll button with the chrono tokens that lets you rewind a turn. That also reshuffles your hand as well to try to alleviate the dead hand problem. But there's a lot of these systems in StarVaders are trying to show you like different things you could have done differently at some point in time. For example, overheating, you might be thinking, if you lost at some point, you might be thinking, I could have overheated earlier, try to overexert a bit more, or I could have overheated last turn. A lot of different decision spaces to try to, alleviate this problem.
Yeah. Well, and what's interesting, I mean, just on the overheating aspect too, that there are certain cards that you can get that actually you want to overheat because the card is going to actually do better, like do more attack, right? Or actually do more damage, or actually available to do something if you're in the overheat. You obviously don't want to overheat all the time, but when you have those in your hand, you're like, well, now I do want to. So it's such a cool mechanic. And like, to me, when you're even discussing that about how you're teaching the player like that, like that's a level of scaffolding the learning that the learner can like understand, like, or the player can understand, like, how do I grow in this game, right? And not get frustrated, right? Like that to me, I think is solid game design, because that doesn't always happen in every game. And you get that in your game.
Thank you.
Yeah. So boss battles are awesome. They're challenging, but they're really cool. And it's so neat to see like the different bosses that you have in this game too. What went into designing the bosses, and what were some of your favorite bosses?
Yeah. So, one of the hardest challenges in our game is designing the enemies and the bosses, actually.
Yeah.
And the reason is that in our game, there is no health bars, there are no damage numbers. I think
Yeah.
in a lot of typical games of this genre, the bosses are kind of big health bars with big status effects, a lot of shield, and they deal big damage numbers to you. But
Yeah.
in our game specifically, everything's kind of like tokens on the board. And most things die in one hit. So, the big challenge is, how do you design bosses that feel big when everything still dies in one hit almost?
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's how most of our boss design comes from. It's just trying to figure out how to even make a boss in the first place.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
there are 3 bosses in the demo. The Mothership, which is kind of like a summoner type, summons normal minions to attack you with. There's the Mega Blob, and I would say the Mega Blob is probably my favorite of those 3.
Yeah. Yeah.
The Mega Blob is a slime type creature. It's huge. It's like a 3x3 grid, and each time you shoot at it, it splits into little blobs that split into smaller blobs. Also throws some bombs at you sometimes. I enjoy that one because of the reactions people get when they see it the first time.
Yes.
It's like, what? What is this boss? It's just a big blob?
Yeah.
So fun. And it's very chaotic to play as well. Every time you shoot at it, you don't know what's happening. So I enjoy that one a lot.
Yeah. That's the one that I died at. I made it to that boss, and it's the same thing. I'm like, whoa, he's splitting. Whoa. Ah. And I was like stressed, right? And I was like, I can't. And I died. But it was fun. And it wasn't like, again, it wasn't like, oh man, I felt cheated. It was like, I need to figure out how to beat this boss, right? Like that was on me. I need to play better. I need to figure out the strategy better. But it was a cool boss. And like the other thing too is like how different that world is. Like that the blob monster is in like the swampy land, right? And like just even the worlds that you have built in that too. Like I didn't talk about that in my preview of it, but I'll talk about it now. Like I love how each world just feels so different too that you're building, and the enemies that you find in those worlds like tie into the worlds that the levels that you're building. So that's awesome.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, I think diversity, or the feeling of diversity, is very important for roguelikes in general. It's games that you play over and over again. It's nice to see different colors on the screen pop out and different worlds to be in. Exactly.
Yeah, I love it. What did you learn about yourself when creating this game?
Yeah, I don't know. It's a very complex question. I think my best answer is really that I'm still learning. I've learned that I'm still learning.
That's not a bad thing.
The game isn't complete yet, right? But I already know so much about how much I don't know about the gaming industry, how much I don't know about what is necessary to finish a game, all the business side of it, all the marketing side of it, all these perspectives of watching people play the game and realizing, oh, they don't understand what a card means in the first place, and thinking about the different perspectives necessary to teach. Yeah, there's still so much to learn, and I think that will never stop. I think there's no moment where you have learned everything, right? You always keep learning.
Yeah, agreed. Speaking of like people playing the game while you're watching it, like for me as a journalist, I think the stressful part for me is I don't want to look like a fool in front of the person that made the game, right? And I want to look like, hey, I can actually play games that I actually can do well, right? And but what's it like on the other side when you are watching people play the game? Like, is it stressful for you as well? Like, oh, please, like, get this, or is it stressful for you as well?
Yes, of course. Of course it is. I think it's like well, you might be stressing that, oh, the game developer might think I don't understand what's happening. We're stressing about, oh, my game's not good enough to teach them what's happening. I think, or like, oh no, they're gonna not like the game because they're not gonna win, or like, so I wouldn't worry about what we're worrying about, because we're pretty stressed out.
Okay. I do remember when I played the game, and I did not feel like I didn't get it because I got it right away. But I do remember playing it, and I think I made a bad decision at one point. I turned to you, I'm like, no, I'm a better gamer than this. I promise you, I'm a better gamer than this. And like I said, I made it to the second boss. I didn't make it past the second boss, but I do remember when I beat the first boss, I was like, yeah. And I turned to you and you're like, good job, but you're not done yet. Like, go on. Like, it was awesome. I mean, yeah, it was a lot of fun playing the game. And it is fun to see the reaction of like yourself or other developers, right, too. And getting that feedback right away. Like, I that's what I love about PAX, is that the hands-on and talk as well. So
yeah, the person-to-person reactions, the face-to-face is just great. You get to actually see people.
Yeah, right. Okay, I'm going to ask a hard question here.
Yeah.
When are we expecting to see this game being released?
Yeah. So we're still discussing this with our publisher, our release strategies. We were our original plan was to go into early access sometime May, March next year.
Okay.
But it's still up to discussion. Yeah. So not sure yet. Early access market is quite a complex thing.
Another thing you probably learned while making games, right?
Yes, exactly. But yeah, either way though, the game itself we're still working on it, and even if it went into early access, the full release would be around a year later. So you can expect a full game sometime Q1 of 2025. However, we do have our demo out on on Steam, and it's very comprehensive. You can play many hours of it already. There are
you can.
A lot of different characters, different archetypes, builds. You can try it out. And if you do want to get deeper into the game, we are hosting a private closed beta for that we'll keep updating and keep talking with the community about. And that's probably going to exist until the game comes out. And as a closed early access, I guess.
That's awesome. Well, I guess that's a good question. How can people follow you and follow the game's progress and possibly sign up for this closed beta?
Yeah. So I'm mostly active on Discord, and that's also where our closed beta is happening. And you can find a link to our Discord server in our Steam page. So if you search for StarVaders on Steam, the link to the Discord server will be pretty much everywhere.
Nice.
in the descriptions and all that. Otherwise, I also have a Twitter account at axolotlstar, where I'll post regular updates about the game. But the most helpful for us and where you might find the most information posted is going to be on Steam. And you can follow us by wishlisting us or following us on Steam to get more information for when the game comes out, when we have news, when we have updates. Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, and I'll include a link. Listeners, I'll include a link to the show in the show notes to the Steam page and also your social media as well, and your website too, because you have the website. Is it starvaders.com, right? I think
it's star-vaders.com.
Yeah. Oh, there we go. Yeah, I'll put a link to that though in the show notes as well, so you can follow all that. Eddie, thank you so much for taking time out of your schedule and meeting with me and talking about StarVaders. I hope you know how much I adore this game. If it wasn't apparent, I do adore this game so much, and I love it, and it's so much fun. I've been playing it a couple times, even since I came back from PAX. I'm like, I'm going to play some more StarVaders because this is awesome. So thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you, Roger.
You're welcome. Listeners, thank you so much for taking time to give us a listen. If you like what you hear, leave us a review. We want to hear what you have to say about the show. Follow Eddie. Go support them. Go wish list this game. Again, the links will be in the show notes. And until next time, everyone stay safe and game on. Bye.
Bye.